Okay.
Good evening and welcome. I'm going to call into order the December 3rd meeting of the Whitman-Hanson Regional High School, Whitman-Hanson Regional School District School Committee. Could we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we move on, I just want to acknowledge the passing of Jerry Buckley. Jerry Buckley was the principal of Whitman-Hanson High School starting in 1980, and she was one of the first female principals in Massachusetts. So I just wanted to acknowledge the passing of one of our former principals. I also want to announce that tonight's meeting is being recorded and broadcast by WHCA. And we are going to start with public comment, starting with Jennifer Roback.
Jennifer Roback, 879 Bedford Street, Whitman. I stand here today still deeply concerned that the agenda continues to omit the specific questions the community has repeatedly raised. I am again asking for clarity. Who is the special education director at this time? If the director has been reinstated, why does a district of this size have 2 assistant superintendents? Many have pointed out that districts our size typically have only 1. This raises the question of whether positions were created to provide jobs for friends with increased pay rather than to meet the actual needs of this district. Each meeting, I come hoping for transparent information and some indication that the committee is listening to the community. Yet we still do not hear direct responses to the concerns that families, staff, and taxpayers continue to bring forward. It is time for clear answers and a concrete outline of the steps and processes you plan to take moving forward. I understand the requirements of an open meeting law, but it does not prevent you from addressing community concerns and questions. Simply adding response to community concerns to the agenda would allow the public to know that you are actively discussing and answering the questions posed. The ongoing silence and lack of follow-through is not creating a trusting environment. If this committee is indeed the governing body overseeing the superintendent, the assistant superintendents, the special education leadership, and the business office, then I ask, have you placed any administrators on an improvement plan? The same way, if a teacher were to be observed and found to not be performing at the expected level, they would be put on an improvement plan. If they are on an improvement plan, when will you inform the community of this? How long do they have to fix what they've done wrong? How long till they fix it? What performance do they need to do before you finally do something and lead us to a better end? The climate of fear and bullying that has been reported in this district by administration must end. It's been reported towards school committee members as well as staff. That's not okay. I also request again that all financial information be shared in a visual format so that the community can clearly follow along. Last meeting, an incredibly knowledgeable community member offered professional help to get the budget back on track. Has the committee taken that offer? If so, what steps are being taken? And if not, why? We need transparency, we need communication, and we need leadership that is willing to speak openly with the community. It serves. Please start responding clearly to the questions being asked. The community deserves nothing less. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. Next up, we have Joey Ford.
Hi, Joey Ford. I'm from Attleboro, actually. So good evening. My name is Joey Ford, founder and leader of Parent Data Force.
I'm sorry.
Our public comment policy is you must be a resident.
You must be a resident of Whitman-Hanson to speak at our, that's our policy of the school committee.
Does he have a child in the district?
Do you have a child in the district?
Do you have a child in the district? I think if he's a parent, he should
No,
be.
but I believe under open meeting law, if you have open comment, any citizen is allowed to speak. If not, I can post my speech publicly. I already have plenty of information. If you want to figure out what I'm talking about, it's probably worth listening to.
I believe our policy is it has to be a resident of Whitman or Hanson to speak. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I can double check that, Brian.
Okay.
Make sure we did that, so that things like that.
Okay. So next up, we have Don Byers.
Good evening, Dawn Byers, 20 Russell Road. Tonight's agenda was posted originally on November 21st by the former chair, and 2 executive session items were added within the last 48 hours and then removed. My frustration is not with you, current Chair Tressel. It's with the former lack of acknowledgement of requests that should have been on the agenda. And also that policy, district policy, BEC for executive session minutes was violated. On October 30th, I requested copies of executive session draft meeting minutes, and they were rejected by the Records Access Officer, George Farrell, on November 14th, due to the reason that collective bargaining exceptions. However, the policy for the district states that when a specific set of executive session minutes, not yet declassified, is requested by a member of the public, the school committee shall render a decision on declassification at its next meeting or within 30 days after the request, whichever occurs first. The committee had since met 3 times, November 5th, 19th, and 25th, and executive session was not posted to review the minutes that I requested. Once that was rejected, I did file an open meeting law complaint, and that was the nature of your posting, but I recognize when you got that information, it was not within the 48-hour posting. However, on November 21st, it was well before the 48-hour posting requirement. Again, the former chair did not add the item to the agenda or the open meeting law complaint, which got filed on November 18th. These minutes are important because the Unit A contract was ratified in June. Again, my request for those minutes was rejected due to collective bargaining exceptions. But if the contract was ratified in June, the exemption, collective bargaining exemption, that no longer applies. I was in those executive session meetings. I feel that information contained in the minutes may be relevant to current negotiations going on for B, C, and D, which some of you are sitting in on, especially Chair Tressel yourself, who is new to the committee, wasn't involved in prior negotiations. You may not have knowledge of what occurred in those Unit A negotiations. To have a full picture of that, you should have access to those minutes. Policy BEC further states the committee will review executive session minutes for possible declassification at least once each year. I know myself, sitting on the committee for 6 years, they were never reviewed. The committee, it also states the school committee chair and superintendent will review executive session minutes for possible declassification at least on a quarterly basis, and if necessary, consult with legal counsel. I don't recall that happening. I'm also still trying to process this fiscal crisis. If the superintendent was not closely watching the FY25 budget, was he watching prior budgets? And what occurred in 2022 when the data breach happened? John Stanbrook told us on the committee he was painstakingly recreating every salary line, every payroll account, etc. So if that had been done in 2023 and 2024, and we had a fresh start, I don't understand still how the numbers didn't reconcile. So I ask you, committee, do you have a reconciliation report of the last payroll from June 2025 and then the first payroll in September? Are you able to see which positions were actually reduced line by line? And then on November 21st, more positions were reduced. Has the committee been provided with a reconciliation report, a real hard copy report that shows every staff member, their job position, and the salary they hold? Compare this to the payroll this Friday on 12/5, if that's the payroll date. Where are the changes so you can be aware of the finances? Also, if you have not already done this, you should be asking, what other staff does the district pay that does not fall under Unit A, B, C, or D? Where are the employment contracts for IT staff, copy center, facilities, central office, HR director, assistant superintendents? You should have that available to you so you know what your fiscal responsibilities are. If Mr. Hyde has done the work and the exercise that determined who was going to be cut or how much was going to be cut, you should have that paperwork in front of you. Lastly, Mr. Stephen Marshall resigned. The superintendent reported that that was after the August 20th meeting, the next day on 8/21. Has anyone seen a resignation letter? Is that in writing? Superintendent Simonak and Assistant Superintendent Farrow have a history of entering into settlement agreements with former business directors, including Christine Sukow in 2019. Those details were kept secret from the committee. I should hope that this committee will not just trust the word of a resignation of Mr. Marshall, but rather verify that the district has his resignation in writing or determine if any type of settlement agreement was issued. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. All right, the first item on our agenda is we have 2 field trip requests that we want to... Donations. Oh, donations, I'm sorry, I skipped the donations. We have 2 donations. The first is a 9th generation Apple iPad from the Velichovic family to the... Valkovic? Valkovic, I apologize. Valkovic? Okay, sorry. The Valkovic family to the preschool academy.
Motion to approve?
Second. Second? All right, all in favor? Unanimous. The second donation is a small tent for the cross-country track and field team for the Hanson Middle School.
Motion to approve?
Second. All in favor? Okay. Thank you very much. All right, now to the field trip requests. The first field trip we have is for the Whitman Middle School 8th grade class trip to New York City and Philadelphia.
Motion to approve?
Second. Second. All right, any discussion? Oh, okay. All right, so all in favor? Okay. All right, and the second field trip is the Whitman-Hanson Regional High School Whitman-Hanson Global Travel Program.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is we are looking at a formation of a warrant subcommittee in order to, as school committee members, we are tasked with signing the payment warrants that go out, and we need to create a subcommittee in order to do that. So I'm looking for Ms. Stafford. Oh, you want to volunteer? Okay. We're looking for volunteers for, I think, 3-person committee?
Yes,
Yes, okay. So we have Beth,
minimum of, yeah.
okay.
I'll
Rosemary?
volunteer. Just in terms of,
Yep,
we still have an accountant and a treasurer and assistant
Yep.
treasurer, I think,
yeah,
even though it's
right.
something we
At this
could
point.
do.
Discussion? or-
Yeah, discussion.
Yep.
I just want to clarify, according to MASC, the warrant subcommittee is not it's not similar to the way that we've been signing warrants. The warrant subcommittee needs to have set times when they come in, all of the members of the committee sit together, meet with the business director or somebody in the business department in order to have any questions that they might have answered. So I just want to make sure that people who are volunteering know what they're volunteering themselves for, that this is not just a run-in when, we get an email that they need to be signed. It would actually be on a regular basis.
Yeah, and just to give an idea, Stephanie and I were spending hours going through these, and we would find issues. But I found that when I brought those issues to the attention, it was treated like it was an exhausted, bothersome thing to highlight. Why did we spend this much? And that shouldn't be the case. It should be that that person is committed their time to review our spending and not interfere with our elected positions.
So now that we've clarified that, Beth, are you still volunteering on the committee? Okay, so Beth, Rosemary, and Stephanie?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you guys very much. At our last meeting, Ms. Hill made a motion that we discuss a series of audits, and I think that, probably the best way to begin that process is start an audit exploratory subcommittee so that those individuals can find out information about, obviously, doing these audits is, I think, probably very necessary, but it's obviously, it's not, it's money, it is, developing the scope and all the things of what those audits would entail to bring back to the full committee. So I'd be looking for, I think, three members to join an audit exploratory subcommittee. Before I do that, I do want to yield to Ms. Hill, whose motion it was, to, if you want to give any kind of clarity or add to the discussion about what you're thinking for this.
Thank you so much. A lot of these come from the Inspector General's office, some of their basic oversight and training recommendations, and also listening to a lot of our community teachers talk about, their experiences and how we handle HR. Additionally, I think we had some really great community members that were interested in participating, which is wonderful, and I want to encourage that. But I also have to say, we have to make sure that we can't just take, for this sort of an audit, we have to be impartial and hire somebody as well. But I do think they should have input, so possibly creating this subcommittee with a member or two from each town, or people who want to volunteer their expertise. I think that would be as transparent and open and cooperative as well.
And I think probably the procedure for that would be the subcommittee, once it's formed tonight, could solicit applications from community members that would be interested in it, and they could then vet those applications and then choose among that subcommittee the members from the community that would be on that subcommittee.
I would agree.
I think that would be the best way to go forward with that, so that we make sure that we're opening it up to as many people in the community as possible and taking a look at, because there are people obviously that come to a lot of our meetings and speak, but there also might be members of the community out there that are not, either are unable to come to the meetings or have not come to the meetings so far, but might have an interest or insights that might be valuable. So I think opening it up and having people be members of the community once the subcommittee is formed and has its first meeting can then open up an application process for interested members, maybe a letter of interest or something. Ms. Blackman.
I could be wrong, but I'm not sure that people outside of the committee can be on a subcommittee, but they can be on an advisory
Right, yeah,
panel.
yeah.
So I just want to make this distinction
Correct, yeah, yeah.
between a subcommittee and an advisory panel.
So I saw Hillary first and then Rosemary. Okay.
I guess my question is just, what is the task? And I think you kind of hit it too. What's the task of the audit exploratory subcommittee? Would they be looking at different companies who might perform audits, or are they conducting audits of the school finances themselves?
I don't know. I don't think they. I think what they would. I think what we would be looking. I think what the intent of Rosemary's motion was to find an outside audit company to come do audits. Okay. But I think that there are a lot of steps that have to happen before that happens, and I think that having the subcommittee work on issues like, as Ms. Stafford said, like there is a cost associated with any kind of audit, so we'd have to figure out. And the subcommittee could work on issues involving how would we fund these audits, and then, but obviously a part of that subcommittee's process, I imagine at some point would be, looking at auditing companies and looking at places that could do the audits. So that would be my understanding, but I think Ms. Hill.
Yeah, I could probably answer that a little bit. So looking at weaknesses first and identifying what sort of audit you might need. Mm-hmm. So I think we've identified some just quick identified governance and internal control audits is the one that you would, I think Mr. Evans posted something today. That's what the Brockton just had them come in and, the IG's office come in. But we could basically utilize that same process or have somebody come in. Payroll, staff, and HR compliance audit. Mm-hmm. So we have some issues where we have one, where you've seen, where we have. And then procedural and regional agreement compliance audit. So to making sure that when we're, not only are we're charging the towns correctly and making sure those procedures are in check, and that we're getting refunded from the, we're getting back what we need from the schools. Now, those are just some of the weaknesses that I've reviewed, and that's why I would like everybody to sort of look at those and come in and possibly, a committee would be better to look at that. Mm-hmm. And
Okay. Any Mr. Marks, yeah?
I was going volunteer.
Okay, so is there any further discussion about the audit subcommittee or what kind of the scope of it would be? Okay, Mr. Boyce.
Yes, Mr. Chair, do we need a policy, or is there something existing? I didn't do any research on this, to establish with the warrant subcommittee, we have policy in place.
Correct, yeah.
Do we need to put policy in place for the audit exploratory committee?
This is a one-time,
is
I mean,
it-
this isn't consistent every year.
So, Ms. Blackman, the chair of the policy subcommittee?
Having been reviewing the policies, no, we can create any subcommittees that we would like. The only thing is that the committee needs to fully give the charge of exactly what the scope is. If it's a permanent or a temporary, we could do, we could say it's a 6-month committee, and then we could determine to extend or, something along those lines. So we don't need to have policy for it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just so I understand, so because it's a policy, it is a committee that is, subcommittee that is not in our policy, we would have to give a charge in terms of like the length of that,
So
that
you
to
have-
start, like,
So you want to give a lot of, it's supposed to be very direct about the purpose of this committee is to do X, Y, and Z. The time period to do this is, initially this many months, and, it will consist of a minimum of 3, members of the school committee, or something along those lines. I believe Ms. Niffen is very, very familiar with policies. Am I on track? Jean?
Yeah,
Okay.
may I?
Yeah, you go- absolutely.
I know that in the past, that might be something that this subcommittee does in their introductory meeting, as opposed to getting right into it. They come up with their charge and what they should do, and then present it to us as a committee, and then we would vote on it and approve it and say, okay, here we go. Now you're off to the races.
Okay, so you're saying the policy subcommittee comes up with the charge for the?
The
no,
audit
each-
exploratory.
Okay, they would come up
Sorry.
with,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I think that might be a good way to go about it.
I think that makes sense,
That
that
sounds great.
whoever ends up being on this audit exploratory subcommittee could meet initially, just the subcommittee members, to kind of flesh out a scope, bring it back to the full committee for our approval, and then, like Hillary said, you're off to the races. Glenn?
All right, I'm going to jump ahead, but, so the idea is to, come up with the subcommittee would be to find a company to audit us? Is that what?
I think that would probably be something that they would discuss.
Is that what we're looking at? The end result is
I
an
think the end
audit?
result is that we're looking for someone to audit the.
But this audit hasn't been budgeted.
Correct. Oh, that
So
would also be
It
something.
would have to be 2027. That would be before this could even happen.
Right,
We could ask the towns.
We could ask the town.
yeah.
Yeah.
But, so I think to answer, yeah.
Maybe.
That would be nice. Okay.
I mean, one thing that I have learned in my brief time doing municipal government is things
They go slow.
they go slow. So I think that that's something, but I think
I'm not against the idea.
No, it's a good question to
I would hate
ask.
to see us do that.
Right.
They'd be like, oh, you have no money for an audit.
But I think so I think part of, I would, and I'll yield to Ms. Hill in a second to answer this, because since she's the one that brought the motion. My thought would be that part of the initial part of the policy, I keep saying policy, excuse me, the audit exploratory subcommittee would be to, one, as she first said, was to design the scope of like what kind of audits they would be looking for.
Okay.
And then they would have to be going through the process of figuring out issues like, what would the costs be
how
of
would we
these,
pay
and
for
how
it?
will we pay for it?
Okay.
And so I think that would be part of the process of that committee, and I feel like that's a lot of stuff to do
It is a-
already, and so I think that,
2027 sounds.
yeah,
about
exactly, right,
Okay.
it does, yeah, so thank you, Glenn. So,
Before just the audit subcommittee, one of the things that is mentioned by the IG is they have classes that we can take for ways that we can monitor how we're handling our budgets and our committee's responsibility financially. Ultimately, we are the people in charge, and anything that's gone wrong is our fault. We can say whatever, and it might have gone wrong in multiple different ways. We're essentially, but understanding what our duties are and what our responsibilities, so a self-audit essentially. So we can discuss that could be something that we could do that is without cost and early, if that's helpful. And you're right, it does take more government crawls, so, thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, so, Mr. Rafi.
Just to clarify, are we looking to create a subcommittee, or are we looking to create an advisory committee and involve non-school committee members?
That's a great question. I mean,
I guess that would go to the maker of
This
the motion.
is something I'm bringing to the committee, so I'm not making decisions if that is the structure. What was the structure for the regional agreement committee? They had more than just school committee members on it, so.
Yeah, so the voting members were the 2 school committee members, the 2 select board members, and then those were the only voting members, and then town administrators and finance committee. That's it.
And so the finance.
So they're not, so
citizens.
I guess they're not just regular citizens, they're appointed or elected,
Okay.
right?
Yes, that's correct, that's correct.
I don't know. My suggestion would be just to have it be a school committee subcommittee right now, and then once the scope and sequence is figured out, maybe we can expand to an advisory committee. Because I do think we have the information and might have a better gauge of what is happening internally and what we need to figure out first.
Okay, and then just a reminder to anybody who does want to participate, these are public meetings. You're able to sit in, and these are public documents. So you could show up and speak to us and work with us as well, but you won't be on the committee. So, thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, so I think I'll be looking to start, I'm looking for, I think, 3 volunteers to.
You need a,
What?
do you need a motion?
Do I need a
to
motion?
create
I
the
do.
subcommittee first?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So can I have a motion to create the audit exploratory subcommittee? That was Mr.
Second.
Marks and Mr.
Is the
Rafi.
hot microphone.
Thank you, yeah. Okay, having said that, thank you for that. Is any volunteers?
No, you need to vote.
Oh, vote, I got to vote. I just thought, everyone seems so amenable. All right, let's. Yeah, we're getting there. Okay, can I have all in favor?
Did you have a second?
Yes, it was Mr. Rafi, yep. Okay, all right, so that was unanimous, so thank you. So now, get to the fun part. Do I have any volunteers for this committee? So we have Mr. Marks, Ms. Hill, Mr. Rafi. Thank you.
I'm sending you the bill for my divorce.
I'll do free babysitting, how's that?
Bring the kid, we'll watch her at the meeting.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of subcommittees, our next item agenda is that we are looking for additional members for our Unit B and Unit C negotiation subcommittees.
And policy subcommittee.
And policy subcommittee, yep, but I was going to lump that with the policy advisory group as well.
Oh.
But we can, yep, so policy subcommittee, Unit B and Unit C. With the resignation of Kara, we are missing members for those committees, and so right now those only have 1 school committee member on each?
No.
No, is that not true?
So,
For B, well, not for
Yeah,
policy, but for B
right.
and C is what I mean.
right, yes.
B and C,
Yeah, B and C, there's only 1 each.
Yes. Yes.
So is anyone able to join Unit B?
Do they need to be town-specific?
No.
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 So, Unit B is the administrators. So there's about 15 people, I believe, that
Yeah.
are under that unit.
And Unit C is administrative assistants.
Yes.
And I think, is there 6? How many people are in that unit?
I don't know.
Okay. But it's not a large number of people.
No.
Yeah, it's not a large number of people.
No, it's not like that.
So,
If it helps, I'm one of the people I'm the only person on Unit B right now, so
I'm the
if
only one
somebody.
on C.
okay.
The only other question that I had, I apologize,
Yeah.
is are these meetings on specific nights? I know when we had the Capitol meeting, I couldn't do those because they were Thursdays. But
So my, and Ms. Stafford, I'll yield to you, but they do seem to be earlier, they tend to be in the afternoons after school. So it's difficult, I think, in that regard.
Yeah.
Yeah, they tend to be like around 4:30, so, or
Yeah.
sometimes earlier, depending on which group it is. That's the issue, but I guess it could be later, but, it would be. And as far as day, that's up to when the group gets together, they decide what day is convenient for everybody, so.
Yeah.
Right, Cindy, Kevin, yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
if nobody else wants to join, the committee can decide to have just one member of school
I
committee
think we do need to we would need a vote of the school committee to allow one member to
Right,
open the.
that's what I was saying.
Yeah, so I think that would be the caveat to that, because like, we need, like, Mr. Boyce and I are on D together, and we need to both be there to open the meetings. And so I think we would, if in the event that,
I got a question,
Yeah,
recommendation.
sure.
So we're going to have another member within how many days?
Oh, I don't know.
it's on the
December
16th of December.
This and-
2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
Well, no, because I think they need to get there.
It's on a time schedule?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just thinking we'd have one more
We
option.
would, yeah, it's true, yeah. So if, Ms. McGann?
So if two members are not on the committee, we need a vote from the school committee to allow the representative that's sitting on the committee to speak for all of you and bring that information back to you. So it's fine if there's not two people, but we need the formal vote in order to carry on with one school committee member speaking on your behalf, just to be sure that we're within the guidelines of negotiations.
I believe you'd have to authorize that.
Yeah, and honestly, it would be better if there were two, because if there's a vote or something, it's better to have two members there,
Yeah.
you know?
But yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Right, yeah. I think
I'd like to have somebody else with me.
right, yeah. But I also want to be realistic too about,
I know.
there weren't a lot of hands thrown up, so I want to be,
Options.
there aren't a lot of options, so I do want
You want
to
to do it?
be mindful of that too. Ms. Hill?
Yeah, just in terms of, there should always be people coming back to the committee and getting a sense of, well, how the committee is negotiating. There should always be that. But you want to make sure they can open up the committee, is that correct? They're not reporting back to you what we're talking about in negotiations. They're speaking on your behalf at the negotiations meeting, and then when we vote, that's when you will all have the access to what's the tentative agreements. So it's not an open dialogue between the committee member and the school committee. We don't go back to the membership to discuss what's talked about in negotiations. We're representing the unit members on their behalf, and then once the tentative agreements are reached, we bring that back to the membership to vote. So whoever the committee member is representing the committee on your behalf. They're not bringing back information to be discussed and then brought back to our negotiation meetings. That's not how that works.
Okay, then how do we get a sense of what we want that committee member to vote?
You're supposed to have that discussion before they go into negotiations.
Okay, so you guys are already in negotiation?
Correct.
Mr. Marks?
Can I ask a clarifying question? Is this law or is this past practice?
Which part?
The I understand that it wouldn't be okay to have that conversation here at this table right now, but my understanding was that during executive session, it is allowed to talk about that.
I get.
By mass law, at least.
I
That's
don't know
when we
the
did the
answer
charting
to
with the
that.
course.
Yes.
I don't know the answer to that, but if something was tentatively agreed upon, then that vote would be held after it was presented to the committee as a whole.
Can we
So
define
as far as like talking points and proposals, those should be put together before we meet in negotiations.
Ms. Hill?
Just to define tentative agreements are signed portions of the agreement. So that means
Correct.
the signature has to be on a tentative agreement.
From the school committee member.
From the
Those are
school
signed and
committee.
dated.
They're signed and dated, okay. Thank you
And
for
those-
clarifying that.
Those are signed and dated, and then those tentative agreements are put into a document, and you will all receive a copy of those to vote upon as a group when negotiations have been completed.
So what I hope we could do is, and I understand the dynamics right now as far as finding people on there, so we have a process that happen, right? So we're meeting with negotiations. Some of the groups are farther along than others. So if there is one person who's on that committee right now, that person would be authorized to negotiate in good faith so we can continue with that process. There may have been questions about that, maybe that have been brought up before, but we want to, so we can keep the good faith and continue this process and finishing up from, obviously a contract that expired June 30th. We want to get the green light here in that process, however we can get that.
Any further discussion?
I wouldn't do it for more than this one, like a long-term, or this one incident.
So you're saying you would, so.
Allow it for an
For this
emergency.
contract period right now?
I wouldn't do it
So,
past that.
so that would be, that we would, if we were to vote on allowing one committee member to represent the whole committee, it would be for this contract period, and then we would have to revisit that for the next contract negotiation period. But I'm saying that we would then revote that idea again if that came up, because maybe in 2.5 years we might have a different membership, or people's availability might be different, that we might be able to get 2 members for each committee. And so, yeah, so I think if we were going to, I would be looking for a motion to allow one committee member to represent the committee on Unit B and Unit C. Oh, Chris, I'm sorry.
So I don't necessarily have a problem volunteering for one of those spots and having there be 2. I like the idea of there being 2, so as not to have to reshuffle the structure of everything just to make it work and make it compliant. There's 3 openings here, I'm one person.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take up all 3, but I'm happy to take one of the Unit B, C spots to prevent having to remodify all this just to have one person open the meeting.
And we would, I'll reach out, so I'll usually send out an email and ask for availability, and then we definitely try to work with both sides to see who's available. It's been 4:30, it's been 3:30, we've had sessions at 6:30 at night, so
Make
it's
it work.
definitely working with both sides to make sure a schedule is amenable.
B, C? B,
Yeah, I'm C. She's B.
I will, okay, I
B
will,
is assistant principals.
all right, I will throw my name in there for Unit B with Stephanie.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Just quickly, when did we actually have a meeting to discuss what that one person's going to do? Because it seems as if that one person is making all the decisions, if we've never had that discussion, that has been...
This has been going on since the
Exactly.
summer. In the committee, the representation on the school committee side for members has fluctuated between a lot of people. So I don't have an answer for that question. That question is for you.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking the chair.
This is the first time it's only been one person, though.
Correct.
But even if that was the case...
I get it, but you've always had, all the other negotiations had multiple members.
I think I'm confused by your statement.
You said,
In the entire...
when did we have the chance to talk about this one person, was your wording?
I guess the 2 people or the small
Sure.
committee
The
should
sub,
have...
when did we have the
The small
conversation about
committee...
the subcommittee?
The small committee needs to have a sense of where to go from the entire committee. And they aren't left to just do whatever they want. So I feel as if there's been a problem in the past with sometimes a few people making decisions, and that we haven't really had those larger conversations. So I'm asking, when will they happen? If there are new members and everyone else, they're the ones that are going to vote on it.
That's a good question, because obviously membership on these committees has fluctuated. So there's people that have been on it for a while and people that are new on the committee, so.
We're in the middle of negotiations.
Yeah.
I get it.
So
Yeah, it does.
we only have, the ground rules that both sides signed gave boundaries that proposals can only go across the table within the first 4 meetings. So we've met as an association to come up with those proposals. That's something that you all need to
figure out and have an idea of what you want to put across the table, and that's where you rely on the superintendent and assistant superintendent to help guide you with those proposals.
Glenn?
Rosemary, at best, all you can give is a suggestion to the person. You know, we have no control. Once they're in the negotiations, we have no real control. We can say, hey, we'd really like to see you do this, but once they're there, they don't have they're not obligated to do what we want.
I think what I was, through the chair, through the chair, I think we also want everything to be streamlined and people to have their contracts, so we don't want it to fail when it gets to us. So that's all.
Okay, Ms. Blackman.
What I can tell you is that in reading the policies, in reading laws about negotiations, in attending the MASC conference, what should have happened before any of the negotiations started is that during an executive session, the committee should have given guidelines to the members of the school committee who are on the negotiation committee. That did not happen. The way that it occurred, to my knowledge, or at least in my experience in the one Unit B meeting I went to, was that the superintendent had the proposals, and I didn't even see them before that meeting. So we need to change and fix the way that we're doing things. It's a little late right now for us to do that, but I'm just saying that we haven't been doing it correctly as a committee, and we just need to fix it going forward.
Okay. All right, Mr. Marks.
Yeah, I think that was the clarifying point that I was trying to work my way towards too, is we're a little far down the line here to be changing whole cloth how we're going to do this proceedings, you know what I mean? But going forward and trying to make sure that we're setting the expectations for the people on these subcommittees going forward is going to be good practice for us. Ms. McGann, you mentioned there was something that was signed as part of like a pre-negotiation agreement of some sort?
Those are the ground rules.
Okay. By volunteering to become part of that subcommittee, is that something that I would be able to see?
Yes.
I've never seen anything like
So
that.
what we've been doing since the change and the influx of members on the committee, with a new member that shows up at a meeting, we've reviewed the ground rules, and then we have added a signature line and gone over the ground rules with the new member, and they've signed off on those.
Okay, thank you.
Just for clarification, we have a policy that says that the superintendent does not negotiate. It's the employer to the employee. Not only is that within the law, without a vote, they should never be negotiating. You shouldn't be showing up and having a superintendent. It should be the school committee. So it's an employer to employee negotiations always. So some of the discussion here tonight was that this happens. It should never happen that way. Thanks.
I believe this committee, correct me if I'm wrong, but had authorized, whether it's the superintendent or assistant superintendent, to be, call it the agent, if you would, to represent, to begin that negotiations process and continue with that.
Excuse me, can you repeat that? What happened? We did something against a policy?
My understanding from our previous meetings, and I don't have the meeting minutes to refer to, that I believe this committee authorized the superintendent or assistant superintendent to be what we call the direct negotiator or lead, right? With then the committee, again, subcommittee, bringing it back to the larger body to vote to approve.
So just for clarification, this committee, which I don't remember taking that
I
particular
think it was
vote.
before you were here.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Committed.
I remember it.
Okay.
We voted it.
Made a vote against policy, against our own policy, to have the superintendent negotiate and nobody else know what the heck's going on?
That's not true.
No.
It
no,
is true.
It was.
Okay,
Okay, yeah, so let's,
I move the question.
I'm going to recommend that as policy subcommittee, we actually review this set and we move on.
Yeah.
Mr. Marks said that he'd be on Unit B with me. If nobody else is willing to be on Unit C with Ms. Stafford, I will join Ms. Stafford on Unit C as well, if that's okay.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
mean,
have
on
to
a
vote on
positive
that?
note, they've been going well,
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
really.
We've had one.
Okay,
But
so,
yes.
so in terms of that, so for Unit B, it's going to be Chris, and Unit C, Stephanie, you'll be joining
Is that okay?
Beth.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then
not up to me.
Mr. Boyce and I will continue to hold down Unit D.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Okay, so then,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you guys very much. And now I want to move on to just the policy subcommittee. And I might turn this over to Ms. Blackman as the chair. We are down members, but also we are looking to add a policy advisory group. So, Ms. Blackman?
So when we, as of 2 weeks ago, we had 4 members on the policy subcommittee. We had 1 resignation and 1 other person who had to step down. So when we showed up the next day at the policy subcommittee meeting to discuss the fiscal responsibility section of the manual, it was just Mr. Trestle and myself. So I would love to have at least 1 more member of the school committee on. Our next meeting is tomorrow at 4:30 up in the comm room. So I guess my first question is anybody interested in joining on that?
When, can I ask a question?
Yes.
I can't come. 4:30 on Thursday will not work. So is that when you typically meet?
So we initially set it up, I would have preferred to meet before, we can change things around, how about that? So,
Yeah, I like policy sub. It's a subcommittee. I'm just not sure, that I have the hours in the day. And I don't want to put another constraint on it when you're trying to find people to do it. If you can find a 3rd member, I can be a 4th member, and maybe when I can come. I just lots of kids stuff in the winter that takes up my time.
Should we wait for them?
Ms. Hill?
Sorry. Should we wait for should this be tabled to wait for the new member?
This might be able to be tabled, yeah.
So-
Because this is not as pressing as the unit contracts.
so we will still have our meeting tomorrow.
Yep.
If anybody, but I would like to ask the committee's permission to form a policy advisory group made up of members from each community, staff, and maybe a couple of students if they're interested. I think that their input would be very beneficial to guiding policy going forward.
I second that.
Ms. Stafford?
We didn't have a second yet. for
Oh,
discussion.
yes, okay.
Yeah.
We have a second.
Oh,
I
okay.
second
Yep.
that.
Okay,
Yep.
so discussion.
Session, yep.
I'm just a little concerned because it's our policy, and having community people, I haven't, they probably wouldn't vote because we would vote.
Right.
And
Right.
anyway,
Yeah.
so
Right.
I guess makes my statement moot. Never mind.
Ms. Sniffen?
Are there specific policies or things that, I guess my concern is there's a lot of policies, and you know this, that are dry and maybe even out of date, and what are we doing? So is this policy advisory group that you're going to have students and parents and community members, are there specific policies that they would be looking at? I think my concern as an educator and as a school committee member is, are there going to be too many cooks in the kitchen who are throwing things in? And again, we would be the people to vote eventually on the policy, but are there specific policies that you would have them look at? And is it going to be endless, just like we should, because there are some policies that can't be changed by
Right.
law and things like that. So where does it start and where does it end? And then where does it become a bigger, our job as school committee members is policy and budget.
That's true. And then there are a lot of the policies that impact that mention student advisory council, that mention school councils, that mention treatment of staff, that mention treatment of students. And I feel that it would be very beneficial to allow those people to have a voice at the table and to give us advice, and then the policy subcommittee can take that advice, utilize that to form the policies, which we would then present to the full committee for consideration.
But isn't our job as the school committee to direct the policy subcommittee, not the public necessarily? Like, I'm on my school council, and we will look at policies and we will make recommendations to present to the school committee. So that is an avenue to do what you're talking about in all the school councils, and every building has them. So that's an avenue to do that. I thought that the school committee's job was to direct the policy subcommittee.
I don't think that I'm looking for an advisory group to direct. I think I'm looking for advise. But one of the courses that I did at Mask was actually about making school committee meetings shorter, more effective, and more professional. And their best advice is through use of subcommittees. So I just feel like this would be, it's a lot to go through, and I just think that it would be helpful to have some other voices.
Okay, Mr. Marks?
No, TJ.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Rafi first, yeah.
I think it's Mark's first.
Oh, it was?
Okay.
Oh, I saw his on.
I just don't think we should be limiting opportunities for public engagement right now. So I would support creating this advisory group.
Essentially the same point I was trying to make. Ms. Roback mentioned during her speech at the beginning here that multiple people in town have offered their services to help us through this challenging time. And, you know, there's not really an opportunity for, all right, come on up here and sit down with us, you know what I mean? And let's figure this all out together right here, right now. So we got to find opportunities where we can engage the community and have the community who's offering to help actually, you know, interact with members of the committee, engage with the committee, and find ways to help. And I think this is a perfect way to do it. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Ms. Hill?
I want to thank Ms. Blackman. I think it's a great idea, and one of the outreaches from the community made me look at policies that were available, particularly for teachers. We have very limited policies for sort of communication from our staff and understanding, although a way to communicate their needs for us. There are a lot of policies that are already out, that are already approved by DESE that you can pull through, but we're very limited. It's almost as if we're flying blind sometimes because we don't have a lot of communication, and it was through public outcry and a lot of communication where people started to speak that I even looked at those. So that knew that it might be something we had to look at. So I'm going to thank Ms. Blackman, and I would approve. We appreciate this.
Glenn?
Just a question, Seth. Would it be like specific citizens that were appointed to this committee, or would it be like, you know, an announcement where, hey, we're discussing this so-and-so policy, it will be open for discussion with citizens if they would like to attend?
I would like the formation of an advisory.
With specific
for
people?
Specific people, yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
And Ms. Stafford?
So my only problem is that we're trying to get people on these committees, and we're not having very good luck. And now to have another committee, you know, are we going to be able to have people going to join it?
It's not another committee, and it's not asking the same 10 people to do the job over and over again. That's why I think it would be beneficial. I can tell you that we had a community member at the last meeting who was extremely helpful and is a policy nut as far as she's concerned. And she was amazing. So I would like to get input from other people.
Right, but I'm saying who from the committee would be on it also to hear the information?
It's already the policy.
The original policy,
you guys, again,
It's the existing policy subcommittee.
That's what I wanted. Thank you. That's what I wanted to be clear on.
sorry.
Yeah, and I think too, just an advisory group would not be bound to the same kinds of, like, quorum, like, we would be the quorum, we would be this, so if there was a situation where no one showed up, we could still have a meeting.
Yes.
If there was something where we had this advisory group and though individuals couldn't make it, it wouldn't impact our ability to do work. But I think the idea of having community members, because Ms. Blackman said, that, we had Kathleen Trask come and sit in as just a member of the community and she offered some advice that was really helpful, and I thought that that's kind of what spurred this idea on. But also, I think to Ms. Hill's point, there are things, and to deal with some of your concerns, because I understand where you're coming from as well, I think it's not that they're going to be directing the policy to us, but we might have questions about how policy impacts. So if we have an idea for a change in policy that involves students, it would be nice to find out if the students think that, how that policy would impact them, as opposed to, I'm pretty old. I don't really, I don't know what's hip with the young kids, So I think that that might be something where
Not that.
having
Not that.
after this week, I'm a lot older than I was last week. I'll tell you that. But I just think that's the idea, is that they would be advisory as opposed to, they would be doing any kind of directing. It would be more the idea that we could ask them questions about how this, what they think about this policy as it exists, what they think about, if we have ideas about, changes to policy, what do they think about those? And I think just having more voices is good. So that would be what I wanted to add to that. But Glenn?
Is there a precedent to having community participation in a subcommittee, or would this be the first time it ever happened?
There is policy about
Well,
having an advisory panel.
The policy is it's policy subcommittee running hand in hand with an advisory. And has that ever happened before? No.
It's in the policy manual that's a capability, that's a possibility.
It's allowed.
It's allowed.
To have community participation
Yes.
in our subcommittee meetings.
Creation of an advisory board.
Okay.
Right. And like I said, as pointed out, they won't be having any voting authority.
Yeah, I get that.
So
Totally
I think,
understand that,
so I think
yeah.
it's just, it's a kind of a formalization of, and I think inviting those specific demographic groups in, I think is just a way to formalize
The
it in a
unknown
way.
can be a slippery slope.
Exactly, it's true, but I think, but.
Can I just ask one more
Yep,
question?
sure.
So then, how are you going to, I think when we talked about the advisory group for the audit exploratory the other one we were talking about earlier, are you going to limit the participation? What's the vetting process for how many students from what schools, how many adults from what parts of the community? Do they have kids in the district? Do they not have kids in the district? Are they just community members? Teachers, how are you going to make sure that you get a good wide range of voices?
If I could get us to vote on the approval of this, then at tomorrow's meeting, that can be something that we could determine a scope of how many members, and obviously I don't want 20 people coming in, that would be fun. But, I think that if we can try to get, somebody from Hanson, somebody from Whitman, a student, and a faculty member, that would be lovely. I'd be happy with 4, but I think that might be something that we can discuss at the policy subcommittee.
And I think that probably, just like we were saying for the audit exploratory committee, you and I will, tomorrow at the meeting, come up with an idea for a policy advisory group and bring that back to the full committee for your approval before we start the process of kind of soliciting people for the advisory group to make sure that it is in line with what the committee would want.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay. So can I have a motion for the policy subcommittee to?
We already had a motion.
Oh, do we have a motion?
Yeah.
It was so long ago. All right, so all in favor? Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you
Ms.
very much.
Blackman.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, this is something that was brought to my attention by Ms. Hill. And this is just something about how, so DESE, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, provides Chapter 70 money, and in July, they gave additional, they increased the amount of money they gave by, I think, $75 per pupil. So what DESE put out was, because as a regional school committee, we are limited in terms of the way that, whereas a single, a town that had just a single school system within it has other options in terms of, special town meetings and stuff. We are limited by the fact that our budget is set at the town meetings in May. But this additional money came after those meetings. So DESE and I included this in your packet so you guys could look it over it. I'm not looking for a vote or anything. I just wanted to kind of explain that there is a policy that, or a procedure that they have recommended for the different ways that we as a regional school committee could access that money for this year's budget if we need to. So I think, I will say that I did speak to the treasurer, and she recommended that we, because the money comes in monthly, and so it's not all here yet, and so what she was worried about is if anything, I mean, I don't know if this has ever happened, but the state, does a, never mind, we're not going to give you all that money.
They put back.
Yeah, so then the idea is that what she recommended is that we, because also the fear too is if you put more money in the budget, someone might spend it right away, but this is if we get to a situation where we get to the end of the fiscal year and it's looking like we are, we need some extra funds to close a potential deficit, that this would be a way that we could access this money for this year. Otherwise, what would happen is that it would go, it's coming in, but it's not eligible for our, and maybe Ms. Hill can explain this better than I, into our 26 budget, it would go into E&D at the end of the year, and it kind of, which is our excess and deficiency, which is basically the equivalent, our equivalent of like the town's free cash. But I think because of probably the circumstances going on around the state, I think that the DESE wanted to give allowances for if districts needed that money for this budget year, that there would be options for them to be able to access that money for this current budget year. So I just wanted to give that, Ms. Tiffin.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
So this is our Chapter 70 monies?
Yeah.
If you
No.
let me explain.
Is it not?
Okay.
If I can explain,
Yeah,
but
go
it
ahead,
might-
and
it
then
might
maybe
help.
you'll answer
yeah,
my
yeah.
question.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right.
The minimal aid it's part of extra money that we get. It's every student in every school. And I think we budgeted for $75, is that what it was?
That's correct, it was
And then it
$75.
came in at $150. So what we budgeted for is what we sent our assessment over to the town with. So what came in, I think it was August, I think the memo should have gone out in August. It came in much higher, which is about roughly $250,000, is that right? Am I getting that?
It is $256,675.
Yeah, that's money that sort of is sitting in an account or that is eligible for the same aid. Now, we get money in spurts. All of our money comes in
Yes.
and broken out. So we would have to budget it in those broken out ways at the same time. But what they did do is they gave a few ways that regional schools can actually access that money and not let it go to free cash because it had been voted a little bit later, and they knew that there were some emergencies. So this allows for us to take a few options, and because, like I said, we are a regional, there is one in which we can ask for a town meeting. Now, if the town doesn't do the meeting, it automatically comes to us. So it doesn't require the town to actually have a meeting to do that, but we have to sort of send it out and say, let them know we have it, and there's some processes. And then I did bring this to my chair and my vice chair, and I think, I don't know if TJ wants to speak a little bit on this. I think you both looked at it, or we can talk to DESE about sort of moving forward, but it's just informing us there is a $256,675 more than we had in the budget.
Right. And like I said, I wanted to give everyone in the committee the understanding of this so that we know, so that if we get to a point, and hopefully, presumably we don't, but if we did get to a point near the end of the fiscal year where we were in some kind of deficit and this money could help close that deficit, that we were all aware that there was a policy, there was a procedure that we could follow to access that money for this, to use it. Like I said, the treasurer recommends that we don't do it now, because if it goes in and it turns out that the state does
A clawback,
there's a
if we
clawback,
didn't file
we would have
correctly.
spent money that we didn't have.
Yeah.
So I think that, and
We don't need that.
we don't need that at this point, right? So I think, I just wanted, because since Ms. Hill brought this to myself and the vice chair, I wanted to share it with all of you so that you were aware of it, so that we would know about it and then have a understanding of it if it came to that at some point. Ms. Niffen.
Okay, so I have two questions. So first, way back when, in one of our meetings, we had asked TMS about updating Munis for our Chapter 70, and TMS did not have the information. The next day, Representative Sullivan had sent an email with the number of the FY '26 Chapter 70 numbers, which was our increased numbers, which is what this is talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. That's number one. So that, I guess, to follow up on that, I'm just really confused because this isn't the first time that Chapter 70 monies has increased. Like, this isn't the first time that we have budgeted for X but have actually gotten more.
Yep.
So, but I've never seen a document from DESI that says the money just doesn't automatically come in. So I'm having a very difficult time following why our Chapter 70 money is $150 per pupil and why we just can't have it now.
So I think we do
understand.
have it now. It's not in the budget that we voted on in May.
It's sitting in a little account.
So the money is coming in, but because we budgeted for $75,
We can only use what we budgeted.
we only use what we budgeted. So this allows us to take this money and use it for this budget year if we decide to.
Okay, so I guess then to me, that clears up all the confusion about the Chapter 70 being in Munis or not being in Munis.
Okay.
Am I accurate in that?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
I think that was the other reason why I wanted to share this, because I think it answers that question a little bit.
I think that that's an important point to make, is that because I did not realize that was a thing, that they kind of hold that money hostage until the school committee or the towns authorize it. Because that's basically what you're saying. We don't have access to it right now until we follow one of these steps.
Well, it's just not in our budget.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, so
We
yeah.
can't spend it.
Right.
It's outside.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
outside the
that's what I mean.
Okay. Mr. Boyce.
I'm a little confused, and thank you for all the explanations, but where first is the $256,000 written down saying that? And two, is the CS2ER FY 2026 document that has Whitman-Hanson, and I'm very familiar with this document. Unfortunately, it says data current as of 1/24/2024. But we live in the same nightmare there with some of the dates. Where exactly is this 256,000 number?
Where's the number?
On anything that we have.
So I got the number from taking the amount, and I sat with Mr. Hyde the other day, and we took the money that was budgeted, and then the money that was appropriated, and we figured it out that $75 per student was an additional $256,675.
Okay.
So it's not in this, it's not written in this document. That's why I have it in my little notebook here, because I
Okay.
wanted to share that. But that was our calculation based on what DESI has listed as our enrollment.
Okay.
And then times 75 was and then when you take those two numbers, which were, I'll just read these out. They're not in the documents, so I apologize. But the budgeted number was $25,929,000. I think it's $471.
That's in the Munis
Yeah.
report.
That's in the Munis report,
Munis
yep.
report.
And then but based on with the additional Chapter 78, it is $26,188,146, and the difference between that is $256,675, which you divide by 75 is the number of pupils that we have in DESI. So it does, all the numbers did add up. So that's why, but like I said, it's not in our budget now because we didn't have that number when the committee voted for the budget in March last year. So it's not spendable now. This is a procedure for us to be able to spend it this year. But like I said, because they sometimes do clawbacks, as Mr. Hill said, and the treasurer recommended we don't do it now. But I think I wanted everyone to know about it because, one, I think it does answer the question I think that you had, Mr. Boyce, at our last meeting about what the difference is. And the reason that it hasn't been updated in Munis is because that money is not actually in our budget, but it's in an account. We're getting it.
So, and that brings me, if you don't mind, to one other point, is let's list out all of these numbers, all of this money, everything. We had John Stanbrook do that 2.5, 3 years ago now, and it really should just be listed out. I don't, you list out your bills, you list out what you're gonna pay for the month, year, whatever, and no harsh feelings on anyone. We're in this together.
Okay.
That's all, thank you.
Ms. Hill.
Just for some clarification, the clawbacks happen not with this money. This
Okay.
money is not clawed back. This money is set for every school, every student, but aid is clawed back overall. So if we made a mistake or filed incorrectly, and they had to fix it or adjust it. It is good to have some amount of money so that you could handle it. Now, this commonly would be something that we would end up with free cash with, because it is true that often when the budget's settled, there's a little bit more here and there, so it would end up being free cash. And I think that our vice chair had sort of gone over that being, something we discussed.
So, Ms. Blackman and then Mr. Marks.
So I just want to confirm, this money is coming in.
Yes.
It is being put into a piggy bank, for all other...
I believe that's a technical term, yes. Piggy bank,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. So it's not like it's going to disappear if we don't do something by a certain date?
No, like I think Ms. Hill said, what would happen was at the end of the year, that money would be go into what our excess and deficiency account.
Okay.
And then, but because I think, I'm assuming, and I don't know, but I'm assuming because this money came later, kind of late in the year, I think that I'm assuming that DESE wanted, and realizing also probably you give the money, to help students and help schools, so I think that they wanted us to have a process to deal with it, because regional school committees don't have the same ability that, like, for example, like in East Bridgewater or West Bridgewater would have, because they're a single town district.
It's the guidance.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I would like to echo Mr. Boyce's request that we actually get a list of all the different accounts that there are. So I would like to know what the piggy bank account money is. I would like to know what the food services account is. I would like to know what the tuition from pre-K is. All of these things that we're not seeing in the Munis report, so that we have a full scope of what the budget and the money is that is coming into the district, so that we can make advised decisions going forward.
Yes, exactly. Okay, Mr. Rafi.
So I don't think that this idea of a piggy bank is really accurate.
Okay.
It's coming in as part of the Chapter 70 check. By law, the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District cannot spend more than the $64,564,205.54 that is the budget. So in order to access this money at some point, or any other money that needs to increase that total dollar amount, the regional school district, the regional school committee needs to follow the procedure set forth in the Code of Mass Regulations. DESE did not make these rules up in 2025 because minimum aid went up. The legal policy to amend a regional school budget has existed prior to that, and if the $64,564,205.54 number needs to increase, whether it comes from any source whatsoever, this policy needs to be followed.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Marks.
Thank you. I want to try to clarify that for my dummy brain for a second here, if we can. If I understand correctly, we're looking at a budget versus an actual. So the budget was, for the Chapter 78, was the 25.9 million.
Yep.
That over the course of 2025, 2026 will actually be paid out at the number of 26,188. So if we look at the Munis line number 4620 for Chapter 78, we've got a budget, and then we've got a year-to-date actual that at the end of the year is going to end up with that 26,188,146. So to answer your question, Stephanie, I don't believe there's, in what TJ was saying, that it's a piggy bank account. The account that it's going to is 4620. It's just that the budget number is going to be less than the actual number because we didn't vote to amend the budget. So it's not like this money is not hanging out there in some ether that doesn't exist. It will inevitably show up in this year-to-date actual line on line 4620, so we'll be able to see that and visualize that, all right, the quarterly payments or whatever, monthly payments, whatever they are, come in are higher than the actual expected, which is good, because I agree, having, money outside the budget in some amorphous piggy bank account is a terrifying concept that I think we should all shun. So I don't think that's what we're looking at here. What we are looking at is, if you look at that center year-to-date actual column, that's where that money is going to eventually show up. as those payments come in. So it is something that is right on the front page of our budget and is visible. Am I saying that correctly?
I believe so, yeah. But I just want to Ms. Blackman's point, I do think that, and I think the budget subcommittee, Mr. Rafi, Ms. Hill and I are on, we have set forth the idea that we are going to have a budget document that does outline all of the revenue sources, all of the expenses in one document, so that it is clear for everyone that looks at it where all the monies are and everything like that. We want to we are aiming, and our goal from our first meeting is to create a budget document that does answer all the questions that you have and have it all lined out. So that might not have been what happened for the FY26 budget, but that is the goal of the FY27 budget, is to have all of that information in the document, all the accounts, because Mr. Rafi brought up a point at our subcommittee, a budget subcommittee, that we have, circuit breaker offsets, things like that are not reflected in the 26 budget, so it does not accurately reflect the actual amount it costs for us to operate the school system. Because money is offset, but it's not represented anywhere. So we are aiming to have a budget document that reflects all of those things that you're looking for. Ms. Hill?
Yeah, again, going back to the Inspector General, it's clear and definable for the public, not even just for us.
No, that's
So that would be the goal, is that everybody could
Yes.
see it and understand it.
Okay. Ms. Blackman?
Sorry, I just, if there's any way, and I don't know how Munis works, because this is not my world, but if there is any way for us to see what year-end projections are going to be, if there could be a line that has year-end projections, so that 4620 line would be projected to be the 26 whatever. If that's something that would have been helpful with the payroll lines, for instance, that it was going to be over budget, supposedly. So these are the things this is the information that I think would be very helpful as a member on this committee to get. So if that's a possibility for them to make that adjustment in the report that we get, then I might actually have better chance of understanding some of it.
Ms. Niffen?
I just wanted to get back to the agenda item, the Chapter 70 monies. This, you said, was a reading document. Is the idea that we are, I know you said the treasurer didn't recommend it. I tend to be of the thought that we are probably still in a deficit, and I don't think we should be putting money into E&D at the end of this year.
Right.
So is the idea that the budget subcommittee is going to look at these and discuss these and come back to the committee with a recommendation of what action we're going to take?
I think that's certainly a possibility. Like I said, I think the idea is just this is it, because you're right, we could be looking at a deficit as we get there. And I think this would be the break glass in case of emergency.
We've already needed.
I know, but I think, because I think that the idea is that the money isn't in here.
Right. So I guess.
Sorry. Continue. I'm sorry.
I think my goal would be to try and do this once.
What do you mean?
Go through the budget amendment process once, because it does require recertification of the budget and transmittal to the towns, and the towns have an opportunity to hold town meetings and vote on it. So there are some steps to it, and I think my goal would be to try and do, if there is, as this seems likely, a budget amendment, to do it once.
So meaning in the May town meeting?
Meaning after that bank account we're not allowed to talk about gets certified by the state.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, so like I said, this is just something I wanted the committee to know about, so there's no action needed. So, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next, we are having a report on, there was a Zoom meeting with the Department of Revenue and DESE a few weeks ago. I know, Ms. Stafford, you were on that call.
Yes.
Ms. Hill was as well, but she has stepped out for a moment.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. It seems so long ago. It was with Jeff and Ryan and the folks from the Department of Revenue, folks from DESE, Jay Sullivan from DESE, just wanting an update where we were, what were we doing, they were questioning about, they had been watching the the TV, and they heard that, the union had requested that things be done sooner rather than later, that he thought, he said, basically, thank you to the union for helping out, move the process along. He was basically telling us that this is not going to happen overnight, that it was going to take time to correct the mistakes and correct the issues. And they were watching carefully. And they actually had said that they were going to contact us for sometime in December, but we haven't heard anything from them. And it's, almost holiday time, so I'm not sure that we will.
Desi, and I was...
Yeah, for the same group to
Yeah.
get together again and have another Zoom.
Yes, I'll just to say I was invited to one for Monday.
Oh, good, okay.
So,
good.
along with the superintendent and the
excellent.
business people. So that was...
So that answers that question.
Yeah. I got the email today,
Okay,
so this
thank you.
afternoon, so yeah.
Yeah, good, so they have followed up. So
Yeah.
they'll just want, an accounting of where we are and what we're doing about it, and what were the thoughts type thing. But they were very positive and very telling us that we're not the only ones having big issues and, things like that, which was nice to hear, but still not helpful. Nice to hear, but not helpful.
Yeah.
So I'm glad. So you'll have more to tell us than what we really discussed. It was just like an update on that.
Did you mention that Mr. Sullivan said that he, if needed, he would come?
Yes, I did not mention that, but, that's something that he'll probably talk to you about then Monday.
Yep.
Because he did say he could come down and talk to us at some point.
And just for the people in the audience, could you just explain who Jay Sullivan is and why it's important that he would come here?
Yeah, he is the head of DESE, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Okay.
And there were a couple people from the DOR, I don't remember. I can't remember exactly.
Two different people from
right.
the Department of...
And there were two from TMS,
agents.
and then it was Rosemary, myself, Jeff, and a couple other people too.
Was there Michelle? I think Michelle was there too.
Yeah, Michelle from TMS. And there was also...
No, it was another Desi, Michelle.
Yeah, and there was also person from audits too. Wasn't she on it too, Jennifer? I was trying to remember.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
The audit
you're right.
person doing our audits was also on
Yes.
too. So, and giving an update at that point. So,
I think you're
All
right.
right, thank you.
Yeah.
So next up, we also had the Mass Joint Conference a few weeks ago. And I know that Ms. Stafford, Ms. Hill, and Ms. Blackman all attended. I don't know if Ms. Stafford, if there's anything you want to share from the conference that you...
Well, I'll let them, I
or
just
Ms.
talked to
Hill,
the,
yeah.
I can talk about the votes. What ended up happening is they made a slate. So
Okay.
so everything kind of got voted in as a slate.
Oh,
So
that's new.
I know, it was, I think Jay Sullivan wanted out of there quick, not Jay Sullivan, Justin, the new Ted wanted out of there quick. So I'm sorry if I was unable to represent exactly, but most of it was in line with what everybody wanted, except for I think the regional and Plymouth vote. And then Stephanie was the master of classes, so I think I'm probably going to concede to that. I think the only thing I would like to add before is I did get an opportunity to, and I think Stephanie went to the same class, was, efficient meetings. And one of the things that they said was, I ended up speaking to them after, is the reason they're efficient is because all of the information is absolutely transparent. And this is Pioneer Regional Valley, and I think I sent information to my chair on them. But after speaking to them for a little bit, it turned out before they became transparent and they were doing great, they were in a situation much like ours, where things weren't great and things weren't transparent. So that what they did was really shift positions. And one of the things they did is they got special legislation to actually have oversight from DESE. I don't know if that's an option for us, but that also created a better bond rating for them and gave them an extra money for borrowing and whatever they needed. So they did say that they'd be willing to come in and talk about how they did it. Of course, no situation, every school district's a different snowflake, right? Has different needs and has different problems. But maybe we could speak to them, and I think I sent the information to the chair, if he has time. God bless you. Thank you for taking this on. But there are some other options out there. Brockton has just put out that they also did special legislation to sort of help them through these. I think what we need is something to say. We're consistently watching this budget. Things are changing. We're taking it seriously, so that we can begin to borrow correctly and get our rating up and do well, because that's really important. So reaching out to them, hopefully. I'm handing it off. That seemed really authentic, that thanks.
Stephanie?
So I actually am just going to talk about the classes that I went to, because I found them, first of all, this is money that is in the budget for the school committee members to attend this conference. I want the community to know that information was brought back that is going to be useful. So the classes that I specifically went to were empowering mental health leaders, which I know is massive, especially given some of the cuts that we just faced. Regional school finance, breaking the spell of high conflict. I don't have any idea why we need that one. Subcommittees, policy development, making school committee meetings shorter, more effective and more professional, outlier behaviors, which can be good, by the way, special education finance, and public records and open meeting law. So I just want to thank, the community for allowing us to have that in our budget to go to this type of thing, so that we can learn and grow and connect with other people and bring back better ideas that we can use to move forward.
Yeah, I agree with Stephanie that I think that's one of the most important things, is talking to other communities, other regional school districts, to see how they work. And I went to one of the same ones that Stephanie went to. I think I was at the same one of the ones that you went to, too. I also did it was a chair on chair, about chairs to go. So if you have a chance next year, if they run that one again, it's very good, where it's all chairmen.
Okay.
There was one superintendent
Chair
there, but-
people.
Chair people. Well, I'm still a chairman. Yeah, you're still a chairman. So it was very interesting to hear other people and what they're going through, or what they've been through, too. So I think it's really important that we keep up things like that.
Chair, there's one that I did go to, and it was, and I probably want to sit down with you about this, but it was one on collaboratives. Yeah. And collaboratives, if anybody doesn't know what a collaborative is, our students that we work with other schools to sort of, with really high needs or specific needs, that we work with other schools to sort of meet those needs. If we only have a small amount and they have a small amount, kind of come together. But collaboratives in Massachusetts don't have space now. They don't have room. It's too expensive. A lot of times the space has to be, there's a lot of high needs, medical needs, so the temperatures, everything have to be exact. So if you have rooms in your schools, it's a way you can run a collaborative program within the school. I think we did this with McQuan as McQuan was shrinking or moving out, but it is a way to bring in revenue.
Yeah, they were also at Whitman Middle, too.
And they did Whitman Middle, yeah. It is a way to, if you have declining enrollment, a way to address that with your own students, actually bringing them back to your school. So, and having that run in them back in their own hometown, they're back in their schools and running in your school. It's a way to do this. And I mean, if we're talking about our students, particularly our most vulnerable students, they're running out of space, and it might be a win for us just to have them back and have them running those programs here. So having a talk with them was great.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hill. Mr. Boyce.
I'm glad Ms. Hill mentioned that, and thank you very much for doing that. So for the years that I have been on the Pilgrim Area Collaborative, and also North River before it became a superintendent-only representation. We've seen I know Beth mentioned a couple, but we've even seen at the Duval School some of the most challenged kids, and just remarkable the work that's going into that, and keeps fostering, positive things. And yes, if we do have the room, right now, Pilgrim Area Collaborative, and I won't be too long because I know I'm coming up on the agenda soon again, but, we're down, Pilgrim Academy is our main place. We were for our administrative offices, we were in an old building in Pembroke, not meaning to call it old, it's an old, administration building. We moved out of that, moved down to a place near the RMV down in Plymouth, and that's like our mainstay, but we are in other schools. Plymouth is one of the biggest ones, being right there in Plymouth, but they certainly always look for classroom space, and we're renting. We tried to buy a school one time just to get out of that whole renting thing, but that can be another downfall, the rental costs.
Just to add to that, the rent is part of what we have to pay.
Yeah.
So if we have a space, it potentially can reduce what we pay per student. And it really, I don't think it's also busing. So if our students are being bused, one of the North Shore is like way up there when we're talking about it. So if our kids, that expensive busing, it can actually reduce a lot of money and service children in a less restrictive environment, so.
Great, thank you guys very much. Anything else on?
No, cost savings.
Yep, cost savings, yep. All right, next up, I'm going to take this, we're going to do some subcommittee reports. The first one is the Budget Subcommittee, which I am the chair of, along with Mr. Rafi and Ms. Hill. We had our first meeting on the 12th of November. We have our next one next Wednesday on the 10th. And we set kind of a dual goal. One is looking at the FY26 budget, which is obviously the one we're dealing with now, but also keeping an eye on working on the FY27 budget. So there were a bunch of, it was a long meeting. I do feel bad. I went, as I was typing up the summary, I was putting the timestamps for the YouTube video, because the meeting is online on YouTube, the budget subcommittee, if people want to watch it. So I put the timestamps, and my portion where I talked about circuit breaker, which is the nickname for the special education reimbursement program, went on for over 30 minutes, so I feel bad, because then I was doing the other timestamps. It was like 6 minutes and 2 minutes, and one was 9. I was like, oh, I'm doing pretty good here, but no, I went on for a while. But one of the issues that I have been questioning and wondering about is our use of that what they call circuit breaker money. And so going backwards a bit, I did some research so that in FY22, the committee, as it was constituted then, came to a consensus that the best practices, so the way it works is that we spend money in a given year for all of our students, but for our special education students, especially those very high need ones that need to be sent out of district, we spend a lot of money for those, and rightfully so, that those kids need those services, but it's a lot of money. And so the state recognizes a lot of money so that they give us some reimbursement that comes in. So you spend the money in 1 year, the money comes in quarterly payments the next year of your reimbursement, which is, I believe it's 75% of the amount over 4 times it's a formula they use, but it ends up being a substantial amount of money. This year, the money that we are scheduled to get is, I think, $2.4 million. So if you think about that only being 75% of above a certain high threshold, 4 times the regular thing, it's a lot of money. It shows you how much money it costs to send these kids to these programs. And like I said, it is necessary and they deserve it, but it is a high cost, so the state reimburses us. So the policy, or I guess the consensus was, the best practice would be that as the money came in a year, it would be pledged to the following. So you would spend the money in FY22, you would receive the money in FY23, but you would put it into your budget for FY24, and that was the best practice. That is not the only way it's done, and a lot of districts do it as pay as they go. As the money comes in, they spend it as it comes in. At some point, this district started doing that. And it seems like FY25 was the year that they started spending the money as it was coming in. So that, I think, I think what it shows is that there was a lot of need in FY25 that was not, that the expenses were such that they were using that money as it was coming in. So they're using the money that they had budgeted from FY24. They're using the money as from FY25 that was coming in as it came in. And as we discovered in one of our November meetings, we used part of the FY26 money that came in this year to close the deficit for FY25. So we used almost two and a quarter years worth of circuit breaker money for 1 year. So I think when you see that, you can see the idea. One of the analogies that was made was that you have a $100 budget for your groceries for the week, but you get gift certificates, and you use the gift certificates, so now you're able to spend $150 at the grocery store for a few weeks, but then the gift certificates run out, and all of a sudden you now have a pantry for $150 worth of groceries, but only $100, and that is part of the reason, I think, because people were wondering like what happened this year, and I think part of it was that we were paying for things with this money that was not sustainable. Like if we're spending money from last year and this year and part of next year in 1 year, well, we can't keep doing that forever, right? Because that's two and a quarter years worth of money in 1 year. That is going to be problematic when you get to the next year because you've gone through all of that money. The other thing that came up that Mr. Rafi noted was that, so in March of last year, the committee voted for a budget. Then there was an override vote in the two towns that was not successful. And so we were tasked with reducing that budget by about $1.7 million. And we were given as a committee a list of cuts that were made that represented the cuts that were made that would be made at the end of June to make that $1.7 million cut for the budget. What we found, and Mr. Rafi mentioned this at first, was that the cuts that were done in the budget and the cuts that were done with personnel don't actually match up in terms of the amount of money. And so one example is that if you look at the revised budget in the Munis thing for high school teacher salary line, there was a cut of $500,000 to that budget line, but the cut that they made in June was one English teacher. That is not what an English teacher makes. There were also cuts. I know.
Seriously.
So there were also cuts. There was a $200,000 cut to the principal salary line that does not reflect any. There were no cuts to any principals. It seems like the cuts that were made, and we weren't like. Again, this is. Some of the former business manager made these cuts. He's not here to answer why those cuts were made. We might not know why the cuts were made in the budget the way they were, but they weren't reflected in those actual personnel cuts that were made. Because people were cut in June. It wasn't that they weren't cut, but they don't line up with the actual amounts that were cut from the budget. And so when people wonder where did the money go, the money didn't go anywhere. It was going to pay people that the budget that were still there, and that were not represented in the budget. That the budget was cut by $1.7 million, but the actual amounts that we were spending was not cut by $1.7 million.
Do you know what it was?
What?
Do you know what that difference was?
Between what was cut? I don't know the number of that, but I know I was able to go through the revised budget and the voted budget and find where the $1.7 million was. And so for example, I know that there were paraprofessionals that were cut last year. The paraprofessional line did not go down at all. So the cuts that were made in the revised budget by the former business director did not actually accurately reflect the actual cuts that were made, both in kind and in amount. So it's an open question as to like what happened. Also, the amounts were in very nice round numbers, which do not equate to salary, right? If there's a cut of $100,000 to I think it was a Whitman Middle School teacher line. There's no way that any number of salaries is going to add up exactly to $100,000. They're going to obviously salaries are odd numbers and things like that. So that was something that was very eye-opening to me, to look at that and see that because there's a big question, how do we get to this point? And one is that the actual budget that they were working off of and the actual spending lines that they have in terms of, and they all seem, for the most part, now there were some cuts, there were cuts to curriculum, there was a cut to athletics that are actual, that there was a certain amount that actually do line up in terms of like how much was cut from curriculum, how much was cut from athletics. But in terms of the salary lines, those don't actually accurately reflect actual cuts to personnel. And so that goes some way to answer what happened. Because I think people want to know, where did that money go? And the money didn't go, it didn't disappear. It was not allocated, I don't know if that's the right word, but it was not.
It wasn't cut.
It wasn't cut. And so we were told it was cut. We were told that $1.7 million was cut, and it was not. And so that is why, unfortunately, they had to make the cuts they did, that we did. I don't want to fob it off. The school committee and the school district made in November were because of that choice. So those were the two big things for me. I know that there were other things that we talked about that are more. We also have with Mr. Hyde from TMS, we developed, and this is in your packets as well, there is an FY27 budget calendar. We are off schedule already, I think, because we were meant to look at this, I think, on the 19th of November. But we do have so that's the second track of our committees. And what probably the main track of our committee going forward is building an FY27 budget. And knowing that to do that, we're going to have to do that starting from the actual salary lines, not from looking at the FY26 budget as was voted last year, because that document is in some ways a Potemkin village. It does not represent what actually is being spent in the districts this year. So taking the salary lines, the expense lines that we have now, and using that to build an FY27 budget that reflects what our actual spending is, and not the budget document that we had last year. Ms. Blackman.
I just want to encourage that as you are planning for the FY27 budget, understanding we have a lot of teachers that are retiring this year, and whether those positions are going to be hopefully filled, but obviously by probably less experienced teachers, so that salary offset. But it's just really important to keep that in mind, that it's not just about the number of positions, it's about where people are on that pay scale and all of that. So just please keep that in mind as you guys are working on it.
Okay.
But thank you so much, because that's
Mr.
helpful.
Ruffey, anything you want to add, or Ms. Hill from the?
No, I think she's talking about steps.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we still talking? Oh, sorry.
Steps and raises, is that where?
Steps, raises, longevity, all of
Longevity,
that stuff
Yep.
needs to be incorporated.
Yes, go ahead.
So it seems like the sloppy accounting put us into this position, but there was no safety net to check that sloppy accounting.
Yeah.
I'm just what I'm going to say. Now, will the budget subcommittee become the safety net?
We bring everything back to you.
I get, no.
But yeah, but I think your question is that we're going to be, yeah.
Will there be a procedure put into place so it can't happen again? If there's bad accounting, and I'm not, like I said before, I'm not a CPA. I'm not going to be able to just pull this all out and go, oh, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong.
It has a scope.
What does that mean?
So this budget subcommittee was not started by us.
Okay.
And for some reason, it was not continued. It was not, I don't know why this happened. It was not reformed. If you could please.
We would have a quorum at every meeting because everybody wanted all the information, and you can't have a subcommittee and have a quorum. So that was why it just ended up that everybody was attending the budget subcommittee meeting because everybody wanted all of the school committee members. So instead of the subcommittee meeting and maybe one member or two members going, we would frequently have a quorum. And the chair at the time decided to dissolve that committee.
Who was
for
the
that
chair
reason.
at the time?
I don't think that's relevant.
I thought it was Mr. Forth that was the chair. Yeah.
It doesn't matter, they're not on the, I'm just telling you that's why.
Because I had a conversation with him and it was a different.
Do we plan on creating a safety net?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that will be, that is part of our job. Mr. Marks, I forgot you, so I'm coming back to you now. I'm sorry.
So we talked a couple of different times about this, reductions to the budget line items not being done with any real confidence towards the actual amounts of the line items cut and so on and so forth. Is part of the subcommittee's purview to to make sure that these cuts are reflected going forward for the 2026 budget. So that's number one.
Yep.
All right. Number two, the quorum concern, and maybe this is more of a question for Hillary. I don't know what the actual rule of this is. So I attended the last
Yeah, you can't have 6 members.
budget subcommittee, so we can't have 6 members in that.
Right.
Right, because then it's a school committee meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, according to the policies, you can have members of the committee, the budget subcommittee can be fine. Other members of school committee can go and participate as public is allowed to participate. So if I were to show up at the
I'm
budget
not sure that's accurate.
I-
Not allowed.
Yeah, that's not allowed.
Let's not talk over each
It's
other.
irrelevant right now.
Yeah.
So I will double check, but my understanding of the reading is that, and from the mask course, is that other people can go, other school committee members can go to subcommittee meetings, but they are not sitting at the table as subcommittee members. So they cannot participate other than as if somebody just walked in off the street. And so that was the way it was explained to us at Mask. I can or maybe Ryan could double check with our Mask
Sean, yeah.
representative.
I think it's something we can discuss. I think it's not. I think we can talk about this. I think it's not productive to do this right now because
Right.
we have different opinions of this.
Yeah.
And I'll check with Sean Costello about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Marks.
I still have one more point.
Yep,
So,
sure, no problem.
At different points during this discussion of having to riff teachers and the deficit and so on and so forth, there was, okay, we got to do this now, and then we got to do this now, and this is phase 1, and then there was other discussions that just completely spiraled from there and whatever. So I guess my next question is there any forecasting out being done for the rest of the 25-26 budget to ensure or to plan for the potential of having to reduce force again? What proactive steps are being taken either by TMS in their analysis of our financial situation or by the budget subcommittee to keep phase 2 from being a thing?
Right. I think the phase 1 language, the phase 1 phrase was very unfortunate because that implies that there is a phase 2 already planned, and there is not. But I think there is I think the idea that they are still TMS and the people in the business office are keeping an eye on the salary projections and the expense lines and making sure they're keeping an eye on those to make sure that that doesn't happen, right? But I think that is so I think the very nature of saying that set off a wave of fear in the community that was unnecessary. I don't say unnecessary, but I mean I think that it was more incendiary than it needed to be. I think it really was a poor choice of phrase that was used.
And I will point out that's not the only time that language that I don't think was appropriate to the situation we're in was used. And I want to make sure that we have that conversation with Mr. Hyde. And, Mr. Hyde at that same budget subcommittee asked the committee, in addition to the town, to tone down the temperature, to bring it back down to a simmer and so on and so forth, and then made a comment about something along the lines of closing a school in March in one meeting and hoping to open the doors in 2027 twice at that budget subcommittee meeting. So I think that we as a community understand, sure, we can scream and yell at each other, that's not going to solve the problem, let's get together, work together and fix it, but let's also stop using language of phases, closing schools, and hoping to open the doors. I don't think that helps anybody.
No, I agree.
No,
All right,
definitely not.
Mr. Rafi.
I just want to be very clear as it pertains to this unfortunate Phase 1, Phase 2 conversation. The deficit that was identified was $1.4 million and change, and the payroll cuts were $811,000. There are still serious budget concerns for the FY26 year that do require attention and probably further school committee action. Now, one of the things we talked about at that budget committee meeting was expense reductions and where we could do that. We're talking about this additional state aid, and then if that, can I even say excess and deficiency in a public meeting without getting yelled at?
I don't even know what the, I did, didn't I?
Eventually, hopefully that, that becomes relevant and we can look at the full budgetary picture. But no, there's not a Phase 2 planned, but yes, there is still a fiscal black cloud over FY26 that we need to keep at the front of our attentions.
Yes.
Sorry, you're my blind spot plan.
The only good thing is this time we're aware of it. We were blindsided. Literally. What, I'm reading, what, So at least we can plan, and we may be able to prevent it.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
First, I want to thank both of you for representing the meeting perfectly, but if there were to be the worst of the worst, I think the plan would go forward more, you got 24 hours is kind of what it felt like. And I do want to note that we were told when the budget was passed that we would participate. This is why I put forward the pause, that we would be consulted and participate, which we were not. So I do want to note that, and I hope that that's never how we move forward again.
Any other discussion on that? We have other, I want to get to other policy subcommittee, and I know Mr. Boyce spoke about it, but the collaboratives as well. So is there any other discussion on the budget subcommittee for the time being?
No.
Okay.
Nothing.
All right, so Ms. Blackman, policy subcommittee, please.
Yeah, so we met a couple weeks ago, and we went over the fiscal responsibility section of the school policy manual. We identified a number of policies which are not being followed, have not been followed, need to be put back into to keep things from the wheel from falling off the wagon here. Tomorrow is our next policy subcommittee meeting at 4:30. And the plan is to go through the entire policy manual, identifying policies that we have not been following, because it's very important for every member of the school committee to be aware of what the policies are and to make sure that we are following them. And there are some which are obsolete at this point in time. So for instance, they no longer recommend that we have a treasurer and assistant treasurer because the school employs a treasurer. So there are things that we're going to go through, and then we'll also, I'll amend my, agenda to include the scope and process to include components of a policy advisory board. But I will just ask, this is the second read for the competency determination policy, which is in your packets. If you could please review that so that, and if chair, we can have discussion on that and voting on that for the next meeting on the, that would be wonderful.
Your policy subcommittee meeting is probably already set, but the governor released information and recommendations on competency determinations statewide yesterday. I don't know if your policy, I know that there's is there a deadline for this one?
So the policy determination, the competency determination policy,
December
I believe
31st.
is supposed to be in
December
31st, right?
December 31st.
Yeah.
December 31st.
So-
So we have
This
to,
has to
we should vote on this, we should discuss and vote on this,
Okay.
knowing that we're probably going to have
change it. Okay.
Yeah.
revamp things.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, because nothing at the state has been determined yet.
Right,
So
right, okay.
this has to be done.
All right. Mr. Boyd. Yes.
Real quick, I'm sorry. There was more than one policy in the packet. Are all of those scheduled for read items for potential vote next week, or is it just the competency?
Just the competency.
Just the competency, the other ones.
Just read items?
The other ones, I will, we'll discuss tomorrow, but I think some of them we can probably just include when we do the overall policy manual.
So the only one that we're expecting to vote on is the competency?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Boyce.
Yes, sir, thank you. So I'll mention that Reed's Collaborative, which is a superintendent-based membership, we have that reading item, which is their annual report. We have that forthcoming from the Pilgrim Area Collaborative. So I'm just jumping one to the other, but we are doing now some summary notes. However, it's in your packet as reading items, and unfortunately, I didn't ask for a letterhead. So you might see it stamped Whitman-Hanson Panthers at the top. And we have October and November meetings, and our executive secretary is getting these together for us on a regular basis. We kick off the year in October, and we go through June, and we get updates from the executive director throughout the summer of the ESY program and so forth. But one of the things I did is I sent it to our executive secretary, and I copied the chair and vice chair. When we started October 2nd, we always open up with the trustees, because we are trustee members as well as board of director members, and we always vote on their health care benefits, moving monies around to make sure that whatever needs to go into their benefits is there. And we do a lot of other voting of credit of line, line of credit for the PAC. We've got a number of other things. And if you note at the top, it says the PAC board was reorganized. Sheila Vaughn from Kingston is now chair. Stephen Boyes, who might be from Whitman-Hanson, is now vice chair. This is my first time, so I'm going to go with it.
Congratulations.
Anyway,
Good job.
so that's October, and then November's, we get the auditor's report. We amended the budget in the November meeting. I think we're at 11.2 million. And yeah, you can see it is expensive, but every child's going to be educated. Every child is going to get what they need for services. And then we have that money coming back that we voted. I don't know if it was October or November. I didn't jump right into this. I just want to make sure. Oh, it's November we did vote it. Whitman-Hanson should be getting $15,301 back. And this is when we figure out that anything left over, 25% of our annual cumulative surplus from FY25, we divide that up amongst the districts, and participating enrollment for the previous year is what bases that number. If you look at this, you'll see 42,000 for Plymouth. They do have a lot of students, more than us. Obviously, they're almost like a small city in a town level. So anyways, if you ever have any questions, let me know. And that's my report,
All right.
sir, in December meeting, and then January. I'm sure we'll catch up more.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boyce. Before we wrap up, I do want to, there's something I neglected to do at our meeting on Tuesday, and I just want to make sure that that I thank Ms. Stafford and Ms. Sniffen for their being the chair and the vice chair in the past. I think, I'm sorry I didn't mention that on Tuesday's meeting. I also want to mention that we've had a resignation. Kara Mosher has resigned. So the town of Hanson is seeking candidates for the school committee to take her seat till the May election. It's December 11th is that correct?
December 11th, which is a week from tomorrow.
A week from
That's the
tomorrow
deadline for
is the
the
deadline to submit your paper into that, and then the meeting will be the 16th, which is the Tuesday after that. I also just want to mention, so our next school committee meeting will be on December 17th, 2 weeks from tonight. In the meantime, there will be a policy subcommittee meeting on the 4th, tomorrow at 4:30 in the comm room, and the budget subcommittee will be meeting next Wednesday at 5 o'clock in the comm room.
And the building committee is the 16th.
And the building committee is on the 16th. Is that a Tuesday, Ms. Stafford? Okay.
Yeah, and it's being held at the middle school.
Being held at the middle school, okay.
Yeah, because there's going to, for the members, it's going to have a tour of the building
Okay.
at 4 o'clock. But
All right.
fourth meetings at 4:30.
Meeting at 4 o'clock. All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair,
think-
you want to do, we don't.
Have a quick public comment?
We don't
have that on,
scheduled
we don't have
yet, so-
it scheduled.
30 seconds?
No, it's not on the
Yeah,
agenda.
it's on the agenda, so I'm sorry, Mr. Kane, we can't do that, but thank you.
You mentioned that you established a QR code for people.
Yes. Oh,
Do you
yeah.
want to mention that?
I should have mentioned at the beginning, so by the sign-in table, sign-in sheet up there, I created a QR code that has access to all these documents. They're also on the website, but it's a link that you can use, and the goal is to have that here for every meeting so that people here in the audience can follow along with the documents as we talk about them. If they scan it with your phones, smart devices, et cetera, you can follow along as well. I should have mentioned at the beginning, so I apologize that I didn't, but it'll be up by the signing table when you come in for our 17th meeting. Okay, so can I have a
Motion to adjourn?
Okay.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.